town. And during my absence, we have a very exciting lineup of guest hosts, including my next guest. Congressman Jim Bridenstine is no stranger to this show. Serving in his first term, he represents the 1st Congressional District of Oklahoma, and he made an immediate impact on this city upon his arrival. And with his refreshing brand of principled conservatism, he joins me now to discuss an event that we both participated in today on Capitol Hill, and that is the defunding of Obamacare. Congressman, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you, Tony, and I appreciate you for allowing me to fill your shoes while you're out of place for a period. And I got to tell you, I don't know if I'll be able to fill them, but I'll do the best I can.
Well, they're actually boots, but I'll leave them here, and I'm sure you can do well.
I'll do the best I can. I'm no Tony Perkins, but I can maybe do a little bit of entertaining and educating at the same time.
I have no doubt you'll do just fine. I was actually, both of my replacement co-hosts were there at the press conference. Gomert's going to be filling in as well, and he was there at this. So I just want folks to know that I'm leaving this microphone in conservative hands. And you're going to be talking about this. That's what we were talking about today, and you were one of about 4 members of the House that joined, I think, 3 or 4 senators, along with some of us others, calling on Congress to cut off the funding to Obamacare because of the threat that it poses to our faith, to our families, and to our freedom.
That's right. And, you know, this is one of those issues where you think about the Democrats that are on our team on this. As a member of Congress, I get letters from both Republicans and Democrats. And I get Democrats writing me saying, you know, I didn't vote for you. I'm probably never going to vote for you. But you have got to do something to get rid of Obamacare. This is not an issue that is unique to Republicans. Everybody is feeling the pressure on this. Just the other day, the president of the Teamsters, James Hoffa, said that Obamacare is destroying the 40-hour work week that has been the backbone of the American middle class. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine conservative Republicans and unions coming together to defeat this law, which I think is important to note. Also, Max Baucus, as I'm sure your very well-educated audience is aware, was one of the original authors of Obamacare, and he is calling it a huge train wreck. So the unions are turning against it. The IRS union is turning against it, not because they don't want to enforce it, which seems like that's why they should be doing it, but they're turning against it because they don't want to comply with it. This law is egregious to everybody involved. I'm so glad that the Family Research Council is pushing hard to make sure that this law gets defunded. But I want to be real clear. The goal here is not just defunding. The goal here is repeal. The goal here is to figure out what is the best way to get rid of this most egregious law. Imagine for a second, your audience, everybody listening, is going to have to buy the health care, the health insurance that perfectly conforms to what the president wants them to have. There are different levels, but everybody has to buy that comprehensive health insurance that the president wants them to have, and that health insurance will include abortion-inducing drugs. And if that doesn't just make every member of your audience cringe, that we are being forced to pay for abortion-inducing drugs through Obamacare, and this goes around the Hyde Amendment, which normally would preclude the government from funding, abortions, and it goes around the Hyde Amendment in this way, because they're forcing us to pay for it, not the government pay for it. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The wheels are, as I pointed out this morning, the wheels are coming off the Obamacare gurney. I mean, when you've got the labor union leaders against it, you've got key Democrats calling it a train wreck, and the president himself realizing it's not ready for prime time, and he's delaying this unilaterally delaying the employer mandate. I mean, this thing is it is dangerous. And you're right. The ultimate goal here is to make it go away permanently, drive a stake through the heart of Obamacare. But unfortunately, in this Congress, there's only a couple of ways to end this, and you've got to cut off the funding. You've got to find something that is a must-pass piece of legislation. And so what's on the table here, when what you stood up today and supported, and other members, was the continuing resolution, the mechanism by which we're currently funding government, that the monies be taken away from Obamacare, and that everything else that funds government be sent on through to the president to sign, just absent Obamacare. It sounds reasonable to me.
It's very reasonable. And here's the thing. Nobody that was there today is advocating for a government shutdown. What we want to do is we want to fund the government with a CR and just have a limitation amendment on the funding of Obamacare itself. And so we want the government to be funded. We just want to limit the funds that are going to Obamacare alone. And if we were to pass that continuing resolution, then we have done our job. We should do that, and then we should all, go on recess. We should adjourn the House of Representatives, and all of us should get out of town and go back to our constituents and talk about why it was important that we funded the government but defunded Obamacare. And then it's over to the president and the Democrats in the Senate to determine, do they want to shut down the government? And I would guess that when the pressure is on them, they're going to choose not to shut down the government, and we will defund Obamacare. And remember, this is only a 1 year continuing resolution. So this doesn't get rid of the bill; it just defunds it for a year.
But what's happening is this is moved from being theoretical to the very practical or impractical, where it's being implemented. I mean, I was as I shared this morning at the press conference, I've been serving as a transitional pastor at a church, my home church, and I was meeting with the staff that have individual policies, and we were talking about this even this week. Before I came here to Washington, and what they said was they just were notified that January 1st, one of them mentioned their premiums, young family, 4 children, all healthy, no problems. Premiums were going up $330 a month.
Oh,
I mean, how many Americans can afford that?
Well, that's why I'm, obviously the Family Research Council, you guys have the best interest of families in mind. Families can't afford this. It is not affordable. And even when you take into account the spike in premium, the spike in premiums is going to be far greater than the subsidies that come from the federal government through the state exchanges. So this is going to be painful for families. It's even more painful for employees. I mean, we have in the month of June, people said that we created 195,000 jobs in June. It's simply not true. We lost, I think it was something like 360,000 or 260,000 full-time jobs, and then the jobs that were added back were all part-time jobs. And so you can say we created over 100,000 jobs, but the reality is we lost full-time jobs and we picked up part-time jobs. This is creating a part-time job economy. And in my district, I hear about it every time I go home. I hear about a business who is hiring only part-time folks, or I'm hearing about an employee who can't find full-time work. So it really is becoming right now, people are feeling the effects of this. Businesses are not hiring. When they are hiring, they're hiring part-time. People can't find jobs. The people that have jobs are seeing their premiums spike. The businesses can't afford it. And the reality is the most egregious portion of all this is that it's enforced by the IRS. And the IRS has already proven to us that they're incapable of being trusted on very simple things like nonprofit status. And now we're going to trust them with our health care. This is just it's not a workable law. People don't like it. And if Republicans, this is the challenge that we're going to have. There are Republicans that are nervous that this could be a losing issue for us if we defund Obamacare in the CR. And I would just testify that is absolutely not the case. That we would be heroes. There are Democrats that are looking for us to do something. And, of course, the base of the Republican Party would be energized unlike ever before if they saw us stand up for their values. So the bottom line is it's the right thing to do. That's exactly it. Somebody was showing me polling about government shutdown this, government shutdown that. And, again, you can show me that polling. We want to fund the government. And finally, after having this conversation, I said this. I said, look, if you're making decisions in this body based on putting your finger in the wind and looking at a poll, by the way, the poll is not not the appropriate poll to determine the policy on this if you wanted to use polling to determine that policy. But on an issue like this, that is so important for families and so important for individuals, if you're putting your thumb in the wind on this, then you're not representing your constituents. Our constituents are demanding this, and then they do a poll on government shutdown. We don't want to shut down the government. We want to fund the government. We just want to have a limitation amendment that defunds Obamacare.
Fund it responsibly.
That's correct. And by the way, I also want to be clear. There are a whole lot of things we fund that I'm not, real happy with. But there's a lot of us that are, obviously Ted Cruz was there, and Marco Rubio, and Mike Lee, and every single one of us that was there, we're all saying the same thing. Look, we're willing to reluctantly fund all of the rest of the government. All we're asking for is this one item.
Right.
And I think that's a message that needs to be brought home.
It is. It's a good point, because there's a lot of folks that will vote for this CR that would normally vote for it simply because it takes care of a huge problem, and that is Obamacare. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us and giving us the insights on Obamacare, and I know our folks are looking forward to hearing from you in a couple of weeks as you sit in behind the microphone.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it, Tony.